Hey everybody, how's it going? You guys look a little sleepy. All right, we're getting to that point in the afternoon. Really excited to be here today and excited to tell you a little bit, if Mark Andreessen said software is eating the world, this is going to be the cookbook or the recipe or the food channel for you. This is, I think, is important for you guys as investors, as limiteds, and people interested in the startup and where the world is going technologically. So I'm here to talk about we are software people. And then the next question is, well, what does that mean? More importantly, though, I would tell you that our time is now, and this is really important for you guys and what's going on in Silicon Valley. My story here about software people and sort of the realizations that I've had about the changes that are going on, they start about 5 years ago when after I started Twilio, and I started raising my first round of investment. And Mitch was an investor, and Dave was an investor, so I give these guys props. But for a lot of the other people I talked to, some of whom are in the room, I got sort of a blank stare when I talked about Twilio, right? So I'd go in and I'd pitch Twilio, and I'd say we're building a platform, a set of APIs that let developers communicate and let developers tap into the global telecom network in order to add communications into their applications. And I got this sort of blank stare, or sort of angry, like, well, wait, what do you mean API is your company, right? What you do is you build a product. And if you're successful in building a product, like go build an IVR or build a PBX or a conferencing system, and then only then, if you're successful, are you allowed to put an API on it. Right? That's the only strategy that works with developers and with APIs. And what I got was this, they didn't understand what I was talking about or why we would need APIs in the world. And that's because of my background was unique, coming at solving this problem. So Dave mentioned I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've done multiple companies in the past. In fact, one of the companies that I have, that I did in my past was StubHub. I was the first CTO over at StubHub. And so when we were building StubHub, we said we need communications to be a part of the solution of online ticket selling. Why? Because as we convert the world of tickets from shady street corner transactions into an online software-driven process, we need to communicate. We need to communicate with the seller. Hey, your ticket just sold. We need to send a courier to pick it up from you ASAP. Tell us where to go. We needed to dial down a list of couriers and say, hey, courier, I need you to go here, pick up a ticket, press 1 if you can accept the job. And we had to then notify the buyer. Hey, buyer, the courier's showing up in 2 minutes. Make sure you're ready. Right, so we had all these communications needs, and what we found was an industry that wanted to sell us black boxes. We found a telecommunications industry. They wanted to sell us these monolithic black boxes. Here's a PBX, right? And then you can go hire professional services, and you can spend the next year. You can cut us $1 million check to get these boxes to rack up in your closet, and then go spend professional services doing integrations and these gurus who understand, Cisco certified this and that. Or these guys in the Avaya trucks you see driving around all the time. And we said, well, wait a minute, that's not what we have in mind. That's not what we're thinking about. It just kind of doesn't compute with us. Right? I had a similar experience. Again, I started another company. It was a bricks and mortar retailer for extreme sporting goods, of all things. And when we started this business, we sort of put on our software hats, and I was the CTO of a bricks and mortar store, and said, well, what do we need to run a successful retail business in 2003, which is when we started it? We said, well, we're going to have to be really killer with our analytics on our inventory and our turns and our customers and our CRM and our loyalty and all this amazing stuff. And then we went out and we said, okay, what's out there for our point of sale, for our shipping and receiving, for our ordering? What's all the software you use to run a retail business in 2003? And what we found, again, were black boxes. Right? Some of it was like Win32, software you just installed on a Windows computer. Others were like big Java, multi-million-dollar enterprise Home Depot grade stuff. But what we didn't find was like, yeah, here are the bits that you put together and integrate so you can get data into it. You can get data out of it. You can analyze your data. You can put automated replenishment orders back in. You can do all sorts of smart things with it. Not what we found. We found these silos, these black boxes of software. And then I think ahead to my time at Amazon, and I was in product at Amazon, and there was a really interesting thing that happened there. We were at an all-hands meeting with Jeff, and someone asked the question, and I don't even remember exactly what the question was. It was something about the strategy, are we going to stand up physical stores or something? I don't even remember what it was. But his answer, though, stuck with me, if not the question. His answer was, well, in case it's not obvious, we're a software company. Amazon.com is a software company. We write software. It just so happens we make money when boxes appear at our customers' doors. But above all else, we're a software company. In fact, we're going to make more money than our competitors because we are going to be able to better arrange magnetic particles on hard drives. That's our core skill, arranging magnetic particles on hard drives better than our competitors. So I thought, wow, that's really interesting. So who are these software people? What is this all about? And I'll give you a hint. It's not just about writing code. It's not just developers or software people. Really, it is anybody who sees the world through the lens of software. Anybody who sees the world through this lens of software, not just developers, right? There are a wide variety of people inside a wide variety of organizations who have this software mentality. And it all comes down to the question of them saying, how can software solve this problem that we have? People who ask this question and then move to act on it, those are your software people. In fact, software people fundamentally believe that any problem in the world can be solved with software once we suck that problem into the domain of software. And that's a pretty interesting thing, right? So these software people, essentially, what they do, they solve problems with magnetic particles, just like Jeff said. And what's the most interesting thing is that now is the best time ever to be a software person and to be innovating in the world of software. Why is that? Well, I'd say there are two primary reasons. Number one, more and more of the world's problems are solvable, are addressable by software, more than ever before. And number two, less and less of the world's non-software problems hinder our progress. Okay, so what do these things mean? Number one, more and more of the world's problems are addressable by software people. So if you think about software, you think about computers, and generally speaking, you get this notion that a computer sucks in some part of the world, does some sort of computation on it, and spits back out something else back into the real world. That's the general thing that computers do. In fact, if they didn't take in the world and spit back out the world, they wouldn't be useful to us. We'd just be sitting there wondering what's going on inside that box, right? So this is what every computer does, and this is what every piece of software does. And what's so interesting is that our progression, we've been able to suck more and more of the world into the world of software. So it started as number crunching, binary data, census data, right? And then moved in the next wave, we got really good at pulling text into computers with keyboards and laser printers and getting text out of printers, right? And then the next wave is getting audio and video into and out of computers. You can sort of see the history of the computer, what starts with numerical and census data, number crunching in the 50s and 60s. The next 20 years were spent bringing textual problems into the computer. And this is when the computer moved into the office, right? Because you got word processing and spreadsheets. And then the next step was multimedia, audio and video in the 90s and 2000s. And we got MP3s and we got YouTube because computers could now address multimedia. And what's so interesting is that now is the time for everything else. And that's going to be the next 2 decades of what we're doing with computers and with software. Sucking the rest of the world into the domain of software, computing on it, and turning over industry after industry in the process. Well, why is that? Well, if you think about software and you step back from not just world in, world out, but you actually look at it as sensors go in, we sense some part of the real world, and then you have actuators on the other side. You actuate something back into the real world. And what's so cool is what's going on right now is a proliferation of these sensors and these actuators in the world. And there's basically one simple reason for why this is going on. Smartphones. Smartphones are just buckets of sensors and actuators in everybody's pocket, connected to the internet at all times. And this is completely changing what software people are capable of doing in the world. Right? So if you think about it, Twilio, similar. We're a platform. What we let you do is programmatically control 15 billion devices in the world, all through software. Let's think about another one. Let's look at Square. You guys are all familiar with Square? Are you LPs in it somehow? Hope so. What they did is they've got this little device, right? Everybody thinks of Square as this little device, right? But actually what this is brilliant. This little device is just heart of it. It's the very beginning of what they are doing. In fact, that is the sensor needed to suck the real world into a computer. The bare minimum needed to read the magnetic stripe on a credit card, pull it into the cloud via your phone so they can do software on it, and then actuate back out. But instead of a receipt printer, which is what you usually get, you get an SMS. Right? So you get sensors, computation, actuators. They have sucked the world of payments into the world of software, and that's what is so powerful about what they're doing. Let's look at another example. You guys are familiar with Uber. So they've taken the problem of hailing a cab and moved it into the domain of software. They've taken hailing a cab and made it a software problem. Why? Because of the sensors and actuators in your phone. They'll let you sense where you are, what kind of cab you want, hit the button, and then the actuator, the text message that says, hey, your cab is arriving now, get in it. And then after you leave, say, hey, here's your receipt for what the ride you took. So again, it's just that bucket of sensors and actuators that enabled them to pull the entire industry of hailing a cab, of transportation, into the world of software and solve it like a software problem. Here's another company, Fitbit. How many people have a Fitbit? People think of Fitbit